In this video, I will be covering Amazon compliance document requests and resulting removals. So the reason that Amazon sometimes reach out to sellers to request certain compliance documents is to verify that the product is fully compliant with the regulations and the safety standards and labeling requirements and so on that apply in the respective marketplaces. Okay, so if you sell on Amazon in the United States, you must make sure that your product is fully compliant with US compliance requirements. If it's in the EU, then you need to comply with the various European Union regulations and so on. So what kind of documents do they request? Well, this depends on the regulation or regulations or other compliance requirements that apply to a certain product. But Amazon generally don't have, well, they set the requirements on par with the regulatory requirements for that product in the specific marketplace. Now, what do they look at? They don't actually pick out products and send for testing. At least I never heard about that. But they request documentation that proves that the product in question is compliant. This is, well, test reports, certificates. It could be third-party issued compliance documents, basically showing that, okay, this product is technically compliant. They may request self-issued product certificates, declaration of conformity, children's product certificate. Okay, this the self-issued documents are very often based on lab test results. They may request product images specifically to demonstrate that the product is correctly labeled, CE marking, tracking labels, and so on. And keep in mind, this is often the case both for the product and also for the packaging. They may also require submission of supplier invoices, in particular if you provide compliance documents such as test reports held by a supplier. They want to see there's some sort of link that you actually purchased the products from the company that's holding these test reports or other compliance documents. Now, how does the review process work? Now, this is speculation on my end, but I've been, let's say, consulting some customers during these review processes, and this is what they mainly look at. So the Amazon compliance team number one, are the test reports and certificates valid for the right SKU, for the right product? That's not always the case. Is the test report or other certificates held by the right company, meaning the Amazon seller, or at least a supplier that where there's a paper trail, some sort of documentation to support that? Are the test report or certificate formats correct? Is all the required information included? Are all the relevant, well, let's say mandatory requirements or testing standards listed in these documents? They have compliance experts that can make an assessment, so they will not accept any test report or compliance document as face value, but actually look at this at this document and assess if it actually covers everything that needs to be covered for that product. And last, are the labels correct? Let's look into two case studies, real life case studies, to give you an idea of the way that Amazon is approaching this. So this one is for CPSA. This is a CPSA compliance request for the US, and CPSA applies to all children's products in the United States. So as you see here, they make it clear that all products, ASINs, must comply with the laws for the marketplace where product is sold. In this specific case, they want the seller to submit a children's product certificate for these specific products, not just any CPC. Obviously, it needs to be for that specific product. That being said, a lot of sellers get it wrong. Because they just find something off the internet or request request a document from the supplier. They also require a test report from a CPC, that's the Consumer Product Safety Commission accepted testing company, which confirms that each product was tested to the requirements listed below, okay, which is edited out in this specific case. But they do list a number of ASTM standards and so on. They also make it clear that your product will be, well, kept off the marketplace until you provide compliance documents. And they also tend to provide a time frame, could be 2 weeks or something. You cannot go around this by relisting the product as a separate SKU. That is not allowed and can result in you being banned from selling on Amazon altogether. So, in case you don't know, then these documents are mandatory, not just when you sell children's products on Amazon, but in the United States as a whole. So they are not making up their own compliance requirements here. Let's look at the second one. This is for the European Union. This is a REACH compliance request. REACH is different. It's a substance regulation. It sets limits for a long list of chemicals and heavy metals in the European Union. And for example, a product or material containing excessive amounts of lead or certain phthalates or cadmium is illegal to sell. So this is a seller. It's actually technically not in the EU, but on Amazon in the UK. Amazon, let's say, delisted or removed the product because they do not have sufficient information regarding the affected product to assess if this product is compliant with the REACH regulation. As far as I understand, that is still mandatory also in the UK. Now, what does this mean? It means that Amazon does not have a test report. They have no supporting document proving that a product, in this case actually jewelry, that this jewelry piece does not contain, well, what they're looking for is like lead, nickel, cadmium, mercury and so on, typical heavy metals that may be found in some jewelry products, and they want to see a lab test report. Now, something that is important to remember is that Amazon may request compliance documents when listing a new product, or they may come and knock on the door months after you started selling a certain product. This can come at any time. Now, if we look back on the previous one, the CPSA request, that's been going on for a number of years. Amazon is strict, and I think it's part of the mandatory document submission these days. This one is more interesting though, because this is sort of when it comes to a REACH compliance request, which applies to all products in the EU, so far in the UK, it sort of implies that any product, anything sold on Amazon in the EU may actually be subject to a REACH compliance request like this one, which is certainly something that will put a lot of sellers on notice. But regardless, Amazon is definitely getting stricter when it comes to compliance checks. So, big question then, can I just reach out to my suppliers in mainland China and get these documents? That would be really, really convenient if that was the case, but it's not. Number one, many sellers, by instinct, they receive a request like this, they turn to the supplier and say, hey, Amazon's just asking for these documents, can you send them? Assuming that, the factory should know, and assuming that they even have these documents in the first place or even understand these requirements. What often happens is that the supplier, being a non-compliance expert in any capacity, scrambles to dig up whatever they can find. Could be an outdated test report valid for an entirely different product, something they made years ago. Or they just find something online from a different supplier altogether. And this is why so many We get a lot of requests from Amazon sellers coming to us and saying, "Oh well, I got this request from Amazon. I submitted this document to them, and they still reject me without even bothering to take a closer look and see, okay, did you submit documents that apply to your product? Did you submit documents that actually cover all the testing standards? Did you submit documents with the right company name?" Amazon compliance team is not made up of idiots. This is very easy for them to make an assessment and say, okay, this is just not enough. So it's very, very rare the compliance request can be resolved by submitting test reports and other compliance documents provided by a supplier. I would say that it's even very rare that a compliance request can be resolved, meaning that you can ever start selling your products again, well, at least that batch of products, if you haven't even taken this into consideration by the time that Amazon is reaching out. Um, let's say that they reject a listing because you don't have a test report. Well, and if they then have all the products in their warehouse, it's going to be difficult for you to obtain a sample from your own batch, get the batch tested, um, assuming it even passes, because there's no guarantee. Okay, let's say that your product is not correctly labeled. It would be incredibly expensive to get that product shipped out of the warehouse, relabel the product, if that can even be done, and then ship it back. So you need to think about this before, not just before you start selling on Amazon, but before you even place an order with a manufacturer. Okay, if you want to learn more about these topics and other compliance requirements, you can go to compliancegate.com/tool.